So today on the podcast, I'm very, very lucky to be joined by a man that many people, cult following people like myself from the Chucky franchise will know, is Mr. Garrett Zima. How are you doing, Garrett?
Good, how are you?
I am great. So for people that don't know anyway, Garrett, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So basically, I'm a guy that likes to create a lot of spooky stuff. Through my childhood till now, I've just always enjoyed making Halloween creepy stuff, and I love the horror films, and so it's just everything just it's like a Seinfeld episode. Everything just sort of comes together with everything I like. It's like all full circle.
So what's a general day in your life like then?
Well, now I used to work when I think it'd be 4 years now that I've been completely independent. But I used to work a factory job and loved it. Great insurance, great benefits. And then I ended up basically there was a crossroads in my life where I'm like, okay, I think I can quit my job and do haunted houses and special effects full time. And it was kind of a hard thing to do. It was just a moment in life where you're like, okay, I'm doing this. I also used to work as a wedding photographer, and I was really good at it. I had tons of clients, and I would get a wedding every weekend of the summer, and I gave that up. It was a really great gig and everything, but I gave it up because I'm like, I only have so much time to do certain things. So I ended up doing kind of special effects full time. It's kind of like just like, an artsy gig where I get not only just like Chucky stuff, I get a lot of random things. Not sure where everything goes, but sometimes, people ask for prop weapons, maybe for an indie film or a haunted house. But I do deal with a lot of haunted house stuff. I create stuff for not only my own haunted house, but other people's haunted houses. But anyway, basically, every day I wake up and I go usually to my workshop. If it's not the summertime, and I'll go to the haunted house, I'll be here at the workshop trying to figure out, and I have a list of what I have to get done that day. And it's real work still, it's even though it's under my direction and it's in a sense laid back, there's still quotas and I have to finish stuff. So
It's enjoyable work though, obviously, if you quit other things.
It's still like running a business is still very I don't know what the word is, like I guess challenging or stressful. So it can be stressful depending on the predicament you're in or what client you're dealing with, but you just pull through and you make it work. One thing I've learned that is very important is just to keep all your customers very happy and work with them. And even in situations where you almost kind of lose money because you're just trying to make everyone happy, that's just how you run a business. Even the customer's always right, and you work with that customer to make everything work, and that's the challenge there. But otherwise, I just love being able to create stuff. I make a lot of dolls, and every time I make a doll, I always try to improve it so the next one's better. And that's all I can do really at this point, because I've been making good guy dolls for so many years. The same head mold, just like, well, how can I adjust that? And recently I redid the molds because I wanted all my hero dolls to have like a thicker neck, because basically it's the same head mold but as the stunt head, but basically the skin is kind of separated by the neck, so it kind of gives it a wider neck appearance. So then I created a whole new mold that had a slightly wider neck. Because that's just how picky I become. I kind of get sometimes bored where I'm like, I just want to recreate something just to improve the way I've done it, basically.
And the Haunted Voyage that you run, obviously you didn't get to run it last year, no?
No, that ended up working out to my favor in a sense. Not that COVID's anything to be worked out, but I had a really good gig with the TV show and a couple other things that happened that I can't really say.
Yeah.
But it just I ended up getting tons of work in October, and so it kind of worked out. Basically, we rent from this camp to do this haunted voyage show, and it's owned by a university, and the university was just wanting to shut down all their facilities, and maybe we could have opened, but because I don't know what's going to work and what's not in a sense with this COVID stuff. So I just decided that maybe this is the year to take off. This is like the first time I ever took off of haunted housing, and maybe over 12 years, maybe more than that. Because I've always either worked at a haunted house or ran my own. So it was kind of bizarre. But ended up working out, so I got very lucky. But Haunted Voyage is, I'm hoping everything pans out this year. Basically, we built all these brand new sets out there that we didn't get to show off last year, and so we're just gonna keep it the way it is, and maybe add some more stuff just to do something, and that'll be it. I just have like a really great team that is sticking together, even though we weren't open this year, and that's what I'm very fortunate for, is the people that I have working for me, and they hang out, and they're a good hang, and we all kind of share that similar things that we like and stuff like that. So
I think there's a similar kind of thing to what you do over here in Ireland. It's called the Nightmare Realm, and I go every year. So it's
okay.
up in Dublin, and the way it works, maybe it's similar to yours, is so it's in a place called the RDS. So it's like it's an arena usually for concerts and stuff, but they normally rent it out for I think about 6 weeks.
Okay.
And they do blocks of shows, like, so you go in, and the way it works is there's 3 separate areas. So you could go into I remember one year I went in and it was a clown area. So it was a clown scare area, and the next thing might be a hospital and stuff like that. Is yours similar to that? Plenty of actors.
What that sounds like is you have like basically a haunted attraction that has like 3 haunted houses in it.
Yeah.
Ours is about one haunted show. It has like we have like a show building, and then a big part of it's a haunted woods. So you're going through a lot of woods, which brings up challenges where it rained tonight, so we're not going to really be able to either open, or it's got usually you'll have a slow night on a rainy day. But yeah, it sounds very similar. I know like there's a trade show in St. Louis that happens. I've been going to it for the last 10 years, and this past year was the first year I didn't get to go because of the COVID. But like a lot of people from all parts of the country come to St. Louis for this trade show, and I'm sure there's people from Ireland and stuff like that go. And but yeah, it's like basically where we get all our cool stuff from. I kind of go there for ideas, because at this point, like I can just make whatever I kind of need. And there's some things that it's just convenient to buy there, and then you'll buy it, like usually sculpted masks and stuff like that. If it's pretty good, pretty cool sculpt, you're just gonna buy it at the trade show. But yeah, like a lot of people from different parts of the world go there, and it's cool because you just get to meet all these different people, and they think my accent's funny, and I think their accent's funny. It's just,
I think my accent's probably the funniest you've heard in a while.
I don't know. Some people mine is. It's I got like such a it has its moments where I get really, depending on what I'm talking about, I get really like youpery, if they call it. So, but I'm up north of Wisconsin. That's why you just kind of have those types of people with that voice.
Yeah. So in terms of Child's Play, how did you become a fan?
I was basically, when I was younger, I was just a fan of a lot of different horror films. My favorite horror film is Leprechaun. That's like my all-time favorite. I just love Leprechaun, mainly because it's such a low-budget film, and I just kind of appreciate stuff like that when you're seeing like a film that was made for like $900,000, and it looks pretty good, for what it is, even though it's cheesy, but it looks good. But anyway,
Jennifer Aniston's best work for sure.
right? um, but yeah, so basically, where was I at? I'm just like losing my train of thought. But the how I got into liking the Chucky movies is I ran into this guy at an art gallery. His name was Steve Bowles, and he worked on Child's Play 2. And I was talking to him. He kind of came up to me and started talking to me about horror films, and he told me he worked on Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 and 4. He worked for a company called Image Engineering, which did like Space Invaders and Child's Play 2. I believe they also did Child's Play 3 to an extent, but they were kind of in charge of making all the mechanical stuff in the factory. So they were in charge of providing all the conveyor belts, and then the weird contraption that Chucky goes reversed into. Yeah. He built that. I have some like really cool pictures of that, of them just building it. And I met him, and he said, "Oh, I got all this Chucky stuff. If you want it, I can give some stuff to you." And he gave me some stuff, and then there was some stuff I ended up buying. And it started from there. I had a doll prop from the film that was one of the factory dolls. Basically, those castings are all good guy castings from the first film. They just, made, in a sense, a recast of those, and they made a blow mold. So the dolls that you see on the conveyor belt are actually made out of blow mold material, which is like, your typical Halloween Jack-o'-lantern pumpkin bucket, like trick-or-treat bucket.
Yeah.
That's plastic. So anyway, he did all that, and I don't know, my fascination grew with wanting to complete the doll. And, from there, we were able to make molds from it. The casting I had from the factory was very degraded because the blow mold, I can only imagine they made hundreds of dolls for that scene, and every time you eject something from the mold, it deteriorates it. And so the face I had, I wish I had a casting of it here, but it was just so degraded that when we were trying to make a replica of it, I had to smooth out a lot of stuff, and it was just a big learning curve. Like, how do I get this to look, pretty much almost restoring it back to what it should have been. And so that's been like the journey for the last couple years. I think I got it exactly where I want it right now, where it's super smooth, it's buff just like the movie. And so yeah, that's just been kind of what it is. I love puppeteering, and there's that's a big animatronic puppet, and I've always been like crazy about puppets. I used to be a ventriloquist. As a kid, I'd go to talent shows.
Oh, great.
And the puppets just got me interested too with Chucky.
So it all kind of came full circle then.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I say everything just kind of comes full circle. I like ventriloquists. I love horror movies. I see a doll. They got these puppet dolls. Yeah, pretty much.
In terms of making the doll, and we'll say like for a specific one maybe that you've made for the Child's Play 2 doll that's on the Trick or Treat Studios, for example. Yeah. How long did it take you to perfect that?
Well, so basically I had created a doll for the Cult of Chucky premiere, which was in London, and I built this doll just for that. And right around that time, I already knew that we were doing this trick or treat deal, and so when I believe I'm trying to remember everything right, but like that doll I made for myself, because I've been making all these dolls and I never kept one for myself, and so I'm like, fine, this is my doll, this is it. And what do? I gave it to Chris Zeffro, and now he owns it. But I gave it to him because they needed it. They needed it for the factory to replicate. Because basically they're within reason good at replicating stuff or copying it. If you've ever been to Chinatown or anything like that, or heard of it, where they literally make fake purses, Gucci
Yeah.
purses. It's like that. Like they can, that's what they told me. They're one of their people there was like, we can make everything, and I'm like, okay. So we got pretty close. In my opinion, it came out a little better than the prototype I had at the time. Basically, the clothes were a lot better. I was able to find like a textile fabric company in, I believe it was Hong Kong, and they were able to do the textile, which is a really accurate knit color and everything. And that I'm always like obsessed with the clothes. And so over the years, I've even wanted to get closer and closer with perfecting it. And we got it reasonably good. It's one of those things, like it's super hard to get a factory to do it right, because the problem you run into is there's people on the factory line that have a general idea of what they're supposed to do to put the doll together, but they don't care.
Yeah.
Like, no offense to them or anything like that, but it's like they don't have the mindset where I'm sitting here adjusting the wig just a little, just to get it perfect, or making sure certain things line up with the eyelashes or the eyeballs being perfectly center. So you do have like certain things that don't always come out perfect. But the great thing, and I knew it would happen, and I'm glad it's happened, is there's fans that customize their doll, and
Yeah.
I knew that was going to happen, and I was I'm so happy people did it, because there's just a couple tweaks you really have to do to get it right. Sometimes it's adjusting the hair. Sometimes with the sweater, I've seen people where they've stretched out the sweater and it makes it poofy like it should.
Yeah.
Super tight. I think what happened was we had a template, and they might have washed and dried the outfits, and they kind of shrunk up a little. But if you stretch them out, I don't know. I gotta make a video one of these days, a YouTube video where I'm explaining everything about how to get your Tots doll up to code. But I don't know. I'm just happy how it's become, and I'm hoping down the line we can do an updated version of the Good Guy doll. Because I know they put in a lot of money to get I think the molds just alone were like $20,000 just for the molds to get produced in the factory. And that's even before they start making the doll. So there was a lot of upfront costs that Trick or Treat invested just to have these dolls made available. And I can only imagine what the Universal license is, how much that costed them. That was probably a lot of money. But it all worked out well, and I'm hoping down the line, like I was saying, that we can do like an update on the Good Guy doll. I would love to do that. I know in a sense, I got away with a little update by coming out or trying to come out with this budget doll that people are hearing about. I kind of posted it prematurely on my Instagram, and people went nuts. But unfortunately, at this time, you can't say too much about it. But basically, that doll that people see in the photos is basically my update with some things that just cost less to produce in it. And I hope that also leads to people wanting to customize their own doll to make it even more accurate, or do whatever they want with it. So, and it'll be hopefully a significantly cheaper price too. Because at this point, it's just like I want, I was a kid at one point, and I always wanted. I mean, I had one of those Spencer Chucky dolls. I had the Bride and Chucky, and then eventually years later I got Glenn, but I sold them all. Had the the ones that costed 40 or $50. And I had that, and to me that was like amazing to have that. So it's cool now that these factories, and with online, it's you can communicate with these people in other countries, that it makes it easier to kind of get them on board with what you're wanting to create. So yeah, it's been a journey, but I'm hoping that that there's more better things to come with Trick or Treat, because that's been like my biggest project, is working with them. So.
What's your favorite Chucky movie?
I'd say Child's Play 2.
Same.
The reason is there's just a lot going on. Aesthetically, I like Child's Play 1 because they used a lot more transitional heads, and I thought that was really clever. But when you watch Child's Play 2, you're watching, the thing I like about Chucky is watching Chucky deteriorate. So different things like in that film where he starts getting beat up, his sweater's getting a little torn, he loses his hand, all this stuff that happens to him. And I always like that, and the way they put it together in Child's Play 2 with the factory scene, which is a lot of people's favorite part of the movie, and I think that's what makes it so good, So it's a movie that can be rewatched and admired. But I always just love the early Child's Play films. It's something to do also with the way they filmed them, but not just the way the doll looks. It's just those were done on like 35 mil, and there's a grit that that you get out of that just reminds you that this is an 80s movie, an early 90s movie.
Yeah, for Child's Play 2, like for the things that they'd done in that factory and the scenes, like for a film that was made in 1990, it deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, and that, I think that movie was done for like 10 or no, not that much. It was under 10, I think, 10 million they made that movie for. And it just, it has a lot going on for it, and there's just good acting in it, or reasonably good acting, and lots of different sets, which is cool. That you have the house, the factory, the orphanage, different things that it's a nice paced movie where you're seeing different stuff. You're not locked down in a certain area, and I think that's why I like it too. I think that's cool.
In terms of movie locations, then I seen on Facebook you visited a few of them and put them up online. Were they out of the way for you? Did you go travel specially to see these places?
I go to Chicago all the time. It's like, well, now I don't, but Chicago is about a 2.5 hour drive from me, and I do horror conventions there. So usually, my friend James, he does HSPPA. It's like Horror Sci-Fi Prop Preservation Association, and they have a booth there. And I usually display my stuff there when it's in Chicago. And I just go to Chicago frequently. I don't know. It's just a great place. And right there, they got, a lot of the area where they, shot the film, at least the exteriors, then the interiors were all done in like California or something like that. But yeah, it's just cool because everything looks the same ish,
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool just to like walk down those areas and see it.
Did you watch the other movie as it was?
The remake?
Yeah.
Yeah, I ended up seeing it. I didn't like necessarily support it. I just ended up seeing it because I was at a party and other, I had friends where they had the movie and we watched it, and it's one of those things, like, it's not a bad movie, but there's a lot to dislike about it. There's cringy moments in it, and It's just hard to look at the puppet, because it's so different. I think that's what it is. It's just, I think they were trying to make it so different from Chucky that it just takes you out of it. It's almost a neat movie on its own.
It's completely, as a fan, from my perspective, it doesn't interfere with what Don Mancini has done. Like, I don't even see it in the same bracket. I see it as a totally different movie.
Yeah, it's like Halloween 3. It's not as good as Halloween 3. That's all.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's hard to explain it. You don't want to offend anybody, but
No.
I'm very loyal to Don, and I was offered to actually, in a sense, work on that movie, and I declined it. It would have been a money opportunity, and I declined it. I just said no. I know Don is doing more, and it just seems weird to do that now. It just feels bizarre to do a remake when a sequel had came out a couple years before. So it was just kind of weird. I could see if it completely ran out of gas and everyone gave up on it, and but Don hasn't given up on the movie at all.
No.
So he has a lot of ideas, and as long as those are there, I don't think there's a need for remake, but it is what it is. I think it was just like a legal thing. MGM or Orion had certain rights to the first film, and there was some loophole, and they were able to do it. And
they could use only certain elements, I think, and they couldn't use the Chucky name and different things like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that all works, because I always look at that. I'm like, well, what was their agreement? Because it's like, it is kind of a weird, like, they were in a sense allowed to make their own Chucky movie, which is kind of bizarre to think, because it's like, well, what does Universal own? Which I don't understand, because Universal seems to own everything merchandise, because the everything you usually see is Child's Play 2. Like, that's why our good guy dog.
This is Child's Play 2.
See? And in a sense, we were able to make a kind of a Child's Play 1 looking doll and legally call it a Child's Play 2 doll, because in the factory scene, the pictures on the boxes is a Child's Play 1 doll. So in a sense, legally, it is a Child's Play 2 doll. So that's how we were able to do that, because I don't know what type of negotiations would have been figured out for a Child's Play 1 doll. But whatever, I'm really glad that Tony's doing the seed and all that stuff, and I think that all is Universal at that point. Anything from Child's Play 2 and up is Universal connected. So,
in terms of the future, then, for yourself, you're going to be involved in the TV show. Let's just say.
Yeah.
Are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, it's I've just been making stuff, and I've been doing a lot more than I did on the cult movie. So I was just Tony is like in charge of all that, and he it's just been a pleasure working with him. He's a nice person, and I'm just so happy that I get to work with someone that great, because I've seen all his other work and Hocus Pocus, and Elterion is just like a neat company. They have a lot of stuff that they've done, and it's just crazy to just be talking to someone like that, and figuring out what we they're asking me questions about what they think should be done, and I think that's so interesting, that they're asking my opinion in certain things. So I feel really happy that they appreciate what I've made and want to make things look accurate.
Yeah. Well, it was an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, it was great talking to you. It was, I love doing the podcast stuff, so it was great when you contacted me.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll see the TV show with your name on it very soon.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Just once COVID goes away, we'll be fine.
I think so. I'm crossing my fingers. I want to see, everything and how it all turns out. So.
Yeah. Thanks very much for your time, Garrett.
No problem. You take care.
If you enjoy the content on our channel, we'd appreciate a subscription. Thank you.